You're making my dreams come true. I'm Ash, and this is Mike, and welcome to the Last Beacon podcast. Today we'll be discussing socialism, what the appeal may be to younger people and really anyone who finds socialism appealing. I actually was thinking about a movie, Raising Arizona, by the Coen brothers, and I kind of made a comparison to Mike, where Holly Hunter's character in that film justifies kidnapping one child of a set of quints because she and Nicolas Cage can't have a baby of their own by saying they got more than they can handle. And to me, the justification of theft among young people and socialists in general seems to be that rich people can afford it. They can afford anything, so we are right to make them, quote unquote, pay their fair share.
And I think people, when you're not doing well, it's really hard to feel for the property rights of someone who is doing really well. But that doesn't make it right. And whether you're ignorant of the history of socialism, or you think of wealth as a pie, you've got a bad foundation to begin with. And even if all your logic is correct after that, it's all bad.
I actually heard something the other day, and I apologize for not knowing to whom to, attribute the quote, but it was actually just a point someone made about how when people compare it to a pie, they're being really disingenuous, or they don't really have a firm understanding of how wealth is created. Because when you're an entrepreneur and you do something new, whether it's creating a completely new product or a new service or doing something in a different way, you have basically added a whole new slice to the pie. You've not taken anything from anyone, you've created something new. So to suggest that some billionaire who does something that no one's ever done before and creates not only wealth for himself, but likely jobs for at least thousands of people is, just really greedy, and, taking a big piece of the pie for himself is not really an accurate portrayal of wealth creation. Or most billionaires, I always, throw out the statistic that over 80% of them are self-made.
I think people are quick to dismiss the idea of creating wealth from nothing, but anytime you write a book, you have created wealth from nothing. And to improve something is to create wealth from nothing, because if you make bricks, you have created something more valuable than the ingredients in bricks. That even to mix cement is to make it more valuable than what went into a cement mix. It's really not hard to create wealth. And all of that increases the pie. That if there was no way to create wealth from nothing, it was all one big pie, then everything would be equal to its own natural resources. And places like Singapore that have none could not create wealth. They could only steal, and that's not what happens.
There's a film, I believe it's by Milos Forman, Loves of a Blonde, and she actually works in a factory, and I think like making shoes, something like that is an article of clothing or something, people need every day that's really standard. And she lives in a dormitory. They have to basically request like a weekend where they could travel. It's like all that formal. It'd be like if you lived in an all-girls college, like in the early days of all-girls colleges, and you're not allowed to have like a man in your dormitory. So would you have to talk to the woman in charge to ask permission to go somewhere? It's like in all likelihood you would. And these are grown adult people that are not, young kids in school, and they have to request time to go anywhere. And Milos Forman was a critic of communism, and it's not always that subtle. To me, it was amazing. I think that stuff got by people who were censoring things because he's making digs, but I think it was just so like, this is how it is, that people were oblivious to some of it. It's crazy. The fact that people want to be like that, I don't understand. So do you think that they have no idea what they want? Like they know what they think they want, but they don't know at all what it's like.
I think that most young socialists either don't know what it's like or have chosen to be willfully ignorant, that they think they can have everything they want with no consequences. If you talk to a lot of them, they seem to think that almost no one's going to be working, or they'll be working almost no time, or they will be able to get paid much more than they're making now, doing whatever they feel like doing, which is really inconsistent with any history of actual socialism.
Well, to me, it was sort of like when Natalie Portman got attacked. It was probably maybe like 2008 or thereabouts, when the economy was not very good. She said something like, if you can't find a job, or you have to take a job that you're not passionate about, that was the time to take free time and focus on the thing that you dream about, basically to make something out of nothing, and people were like, she is, so privileged, and she doesn't understand that it's like, you might be working 2-3 jobs and you don't have time for any of that. And if she, hadn't been born into a rich family, she would understand. And it's like, I can sort of see both sides of the statement. It's like, I understand why it's really important, if you're not where you want to be in life, no matter what your position is or what caused you to be there, to work towards something better, especially if it's the thing you're most passionate about. But I can also see why, they would say, well, when you started acting when you're 12, don't talk to me about how to figure things out, or, whatever. So that all makes sense, but I wonder, and this is just me kicking tires here, but do you feel like the virtue signaling, like we've become a culture of virtue signaling, so that they basically have told us that it's okay to like publicly shame people, cancel people. We're now in a like cancel culture. But if you think back to, even a few years ago, if people don't like stuff because of like social media and everything, they publicly tell you about it. Like, oh, this is awful. They complain about people, things, places, just like April Ludgate with her "I like people, places, and things." But they complain about everything. They call it Complain Book on Facebook. So if you think about this, the left had a much better understanding of how social media worked. Like, I think the right is finally starting to figure it out, to the point that we're getting better at social media than they are. Not only do you have like Ted Cruz, who is one of the funniest presences, I wish he were president, presences on Twitter, but also like memes. Our memes are amazing. The left doesn't know how to meme. They don't understand what a meme is.
Mostly, I think, it's because political memes capitalize on hypocrisy.
Yeah, and the left doesn't understand what hypocrisy is. I actually had a very close friend who, like we barely speak anymore because we're just really different politically. And she told me straight up that she didn't know what hypocrisy was. And it's like, it made perfect sense to me. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I thought, because everything that they believe is hypocritical, or everything they say is different from what they do, it made sense. So my point, basically, about all this is, like, they got really good at shaming people for stuff and getting people to shame other people for stuff. So if old rich white people are greedy, we want to be the opposite of that. So we'll say that, yeah, like we hate rich people, and then I'll be a good person and I can pat myself on the back. And so I think socialism, they don't want to be like down in Venezuela eating zoo animals and not having any toilet paper, but they want to be able to say that they're better than Michael Bloomberg because he's a rich old white racist, sexist son of a bee. See, I'm trying not to swear.
I think the idea is that the left has been very good about the idea of fairness. Most people have an idea of justice, and if you don't have a philosophical foundation for what justice is, anybody around you is going to fill that void. And everybody having the same amount of stuff sounds good to a kid, especially when, if you're a poor kid, you probably didn't do anything to deserve to be a poor kid. So if you see somebody, especially if you're in a school where a rich kid is a bully, it's easy to hate rich people. Because this rich kid is a jerk, and he has stuff you don't have, and he didn't do anything to deserve it. So that's your foundation. And you think that we can maintain this multi-trillion-dollar economy, and we're all just going to have more of it, right? It's all going to shift. But that's not how it works, because the incentives matter. And once you start taking away from people because they have more, you've shifted what the law does.
And it's this philosophy of envy, socialism is. If you really think about envy, it makes zero sense. So I'm a really super short person. If I were to envy a tall person, it wouldn't make any sense because I was born into this body and they were born into that one. Like you said, I didn't do anything to earn being short. They didn't do anything to earn being tall except for maybe eat their vegetables and not drink coffee as a child like I did. But it's like it was just something that happened. It's not something to envy someone for. If somebody worked for money, why would you envy them? You should want to emulate that and work hard yourself and try to build that up. But if they worked for it, then they absolutely deserve what they have. If they were born into a rich family, even if you think they don't deserve it because they're a jerk, they were born into that. They can't control it. So are you going to hate them for that? It's all stupid.
I think we need to do a better job of selling a morality that includes some inequality. Because inequality is indelible. It always exists. It has never not existed. Nature is not fair. People should be treated with the same rules, but they should not be made to be equal. But our messaging needs to improve.
Well, and that's another hypocritical point is, the left will tell you that diversity is a good thing, but they're also trying to make everybody the same. Diversity is great unless people have different amounts of money or they lead different lives and work different hours and that's why they have different amounts of money. Or diversity of thought, that's not so hot. We shouldn't have that. We should all just think the same and have the same amount of money and live equally poor, everybody. It just sounds like it would be the tits.
I don't think if any of them were able to think through logically the end of what they're advocating, they would want it. But if your life sucks, you want something different, we have to give them a better positive message.
The grass is always greener. Well, nothing's greener than sitting on a huge pile of money that you earned, that it's just sweaty, hot, stinky, smelly cash. It's all yours, and it's the best kind of green, unless you like to smoke marijuana, and you can buy lots of it with cash. So, have fun.